BMWs don't build a lot of sports cars, and yet they have managed to fuel the motoring dreams for a lot of enthusiasts around the world. The ultimate driving machine. It's a marketing campaign that has certainly worked wonders, but it's not because of those words, but it's more to do with the cars that live up to that tagline, particularly the 3 Series bloodline. And this one right here is the latest generation of it. This is finally a BMW that looks new, fresh and unriddled by the need to follow the design direction set by other BMWs. Well, almost. It is also the most angry 3 Series that we have ever seen. Compared to the outgoing car, the kidney grille is larger as expected and is now a single-piece unit. The aggression of the front end is defined by the 4 frowning lines on the bonnet which converge into this grille. The shape of the headlights is sharper and is defined by the aggressive detailing. The bumpers are quite busy too, with the large air dams and the rising cheekbones defined by the vertical creases that intrude into the headlights to create a notch. The treatment of the face is in line with the 3.0 CSL homage concept from 2015. But some of the details draw inspiration further back on the BMW timeline. That little notch in the headlamp is inspired by the E46 BMW. It's one of my most favorite iterations of the 3 Series, and therefore I'm going to pick sides. The E46, I believe, is the most elegant representation of the 3 Series. This one, not as elegant in comparison, especially that face. It looks overdone to me, and I think it is one of the biggest reasons why this design will polarize the onlookers. These headlights can now be specified with the BMW laser lights, which makes it the best lighting equipment in this class. As is the norm now, all the lights inside and out are LEDs. This new sculpted design for the taillights is becoming a new signature for BMW. We've already seen it on the BMW X4 as well. I think it looks quite nice, but also looks quite Lexusy. The tail looks quite sporty with the twin exhaust pipes, the diffuser-like applique in the bumper and the 4 vents on the either side of it. Like the face, the tail is also the busiest that we've seen ever on a 3 Series, and that is also partly because this is the M Sport trim. So the M Sport variant gets you those M badges, it gets you the M wheels. You don't have a very distinctive design for the brake calipers, but you do get a lot less bling. All the chrome is replaced with black finish, and I think it looks really nice, especially here. Even on the Hofmeister kink, it looks nice. And what I particularly like is the shape that they have now given to the glass. The car that you see here sits on 18-inch rims, which is the largest that you can get on the new 3 Series so far. The ground clearance has been increased to 150mm for the India spec model. Look at this car from a distance and you will see the typical low slung stance and the long nose short boot profile that's typical to a 3 Series. Look at it from close quarters, however, and you realize that the 3 Series has grown much larger than before. 76mm longer, 16mm wider and 1mm taller than before. And to maintain its low overhangs and dynamic abilities, the wheels have yet again been pushed to the far corners of the car and see a 41mm increase in wheelbase and a wider track width too. The rear seat space for a 3 Series is actually quite good. You may not necessarily want a 3 GT, and even if you want one, unfortunately with this generation, there is no 3 GT, at least as of now. They axed it in the previous generation. Legroom, really good. Headroom for my height of 5'8", quite nice for a taller person, may not be so much. It's not a very airy feeling cabin, but for a 3 Series, it's actually quite spacious. Unfortunately, you don't get a panoramic sunroof, and that's a bit of a worry because a panoramic sunroof in this generation of the car would have actually made a lot of sense. But then again, this is a driver's car. That is the more important seat in this particular car, and that is why all the goodies are concentrating right there. That improved rear seat space may not make you want the GT so badly, but the boot space might. Not a very generous space. You have a spare tire, a space saver of course, but that does eat up into a lot of space. That's all that you get. It's magical how the cabin instantly wraps around you the moment you get into the driver's seat, giving you a clear view of the road ahead and yet making you feel like you're a part of the drivetrain and not sitting atop it. The cabin of the new 3 Series is going to have a bit of mixed reactions from BMW purists, from customers, from everyone. I like my BMW cabins to be quite functional and simple, and that is why I really like this design. It is actually the bare basic of what you can get with a BMW with all the features in there. So you don't get a heads-up display right now, but you do get a nice infotainment. It's not the biggest in its class, it's not the biggest that BMW is offering either, but it's nicely in line with the digital instrumentation. I've already said this, I do not like the layout of this instrumentation all that much. It is not as customizable as the Audi virtual cockpit. The information is easy to read, but it's just not to my taste. I think it's just too much happening there. Once you get used to it, you know what is where, but I just don't like it all that much. But I like the overall design of the cabin. Again, in typical BMW fashion, it is driver-centric, so everything is very easily laid out, everything falls easily at hand, very intuitive in that sense. Like I said in the beginning, it's a very minimal design, and that's how I like it. There are some people who want their designs or the cabins to be bling. That's why the BMW X5, right? So if you come from that school of thought, maybe you will not like this simple layout all that much. The only little grudge that I have is I do not like these inlays. They're nice materials, but this particular design, it feels like it's just a printed vinyl, and I don't like it. I would have probably gone with something like a carbon fiber finish or maybe even a wood finish. That would go with the cabin very nicely. This one does look sporty. It's a nice sporty layout overall. Fit and finish is something you can't find faults with. It's perfect. It's just the way you expect a luxury car to be. The infotainment has gesture controls, a multitude of input choices, wireless Apple CarPlay, and a digital assistant that answers to "Hey BMW" or any other name that you choose to give it. You can also create user profiles to customize certain preferences, so most of the current generation technology is all covered. There are also some cool features like the reversing assist, which is a part of the park assist, which in scenarios like a parking spot or a tight maneuver remembers the path that you've taken and can automatically reverse along the same path again if you're unsure on how to maneuver. Cool feature that. But let us talk instead about how the new 3 Series drives when you are in control. This car is quick to get off the mark, and that is when you understand that outrageous design, that over-the-top design actually goes quite well with the intent of this car. And that design starts growing on you, even if it's polarized, even if you've not liked it at first, it starts growing on you, especially after you drive this car, and that's a big thing to say, a performance having a say on how the design should be. And I'm not talking about science, I'm not talking about aerodynamics. The aerodynamics, however, are really good. In fact, the aerodynamics of this car are better than some of the sports cars from not so long ago. Dropping its drag coefficient from 0.26 in the previous model to 0.23 on the car that you see here, the new 3 Series is actually more aerodynamic than BMW's flagship sports cars like the i8 and the 8 Series Coupe, and that is a big deal. Probably why I did not get carried away with the design at first is because of the color that they've sent this car in. It's a grey, it's just merging with these grey clouds, the grey road. For a car like this, which loves to be given the whip, any shade of BMW's blues would have looked much better than any shade of grey. No pun intended. Underneath the sculpted bodywork of the new 3 Series is the cluster architecture, derived from the 8, 7, 6 and 5 Series, which makes this car quite light despite the increment in size and equipment. That architecture is also responsible for the improved handling manners of this car. BMW is not bringing adaptive dampers to India, and I sort of understand that decision because a lot of luxury cars that are suspended from adaptive dampers right now are facing a lot of issues with coping up with the Indian road conditions, with service, with warranty, and I understand. And I'm not really worried because even in comfort mode, it works quite well, and the stock setup on this car is actually quite good. Even in its Sport and Sport Plus modes, the car is actually not too firm, so you don't really need adaptive dampers to firm things up or to even dial them down. There is, of course, a feeling that there is a bit of roll on the outer wheel, but the roll is controlled. All that movement is quite well controlled. It feels nice and taut to drive just the way you expect a BMW 3 Series to be. And in terms of its handling dynamics, I don't feel that I want the car to be any stiffer than what it is. The new suspension in the 3 Series uses extra hydraulic damping in the front axle and a compression limiting system at the rear, which BMW says allows damping that is continuously variable and yet very progressive. And I think it works. In fact, it reminds me of the era when adaptive dampers weren't a thing, when the dynamics felt natural, unassisted, and not artificial. The new 3 Series feels exactly like that, and that is good news. Track junkies, however, will miss the option of the M Advantage, like the adaptive sport suspension, the lightweight brakes, the sport differential, and of course the variable ratio steering wheel. All this equipment will make a lot of difference on the track, but on the road, even in their absence, the 3 Series is an absolute hoot to drive. Tail happy when you want it to, precise if you want it to, just how a 3 Series sedan should be. I just can't imagine what the M version of this car is going to be like and what the actual M3 is going to be like. In fact, there are reports that the M3 is coming with a 6-speed manual, and that should be so much fun. With all that power, with the kind of engines that they have right now, a 6-speed manual gearbox would be just the icing on the cake. Sadly, the manual M3 may never make it to India. The gearbox on this 330i is the telepathic 8-speed automatic from ZF and is easily the best in class when it comes to responsiveness. Seldom will you need to touch the paddle shifters unless you are pushing the car to its absolute limits. There is a feeling of BMW going back to its roots with the new 3 Series, but the 330i badge still points to a 4-cylinder engine. The sound of this engine is actually quite nice. Of course, it doesn't have the oral drama of a 6-cylinder or a V engine. But then again, if the sound of a 4-cylinder motorcycle can put a smile on our face, why can't this one? It certainly does. It's certainly nice enough to make you go harder, make you push the car harder. And if the sound doesn't do it for you, the dynamics of this car certainly will. This is the B48 2-liter engine that puts out 258 horses and 400 Newton meters that propel this car from a standstill to 100 kilometers an hour in 5.8 seconds. Top speed is restricted to 250 kilometers an hour, but getting there on the India spec car can be a pain. Those beeps, one beep at 80 kilometers an hour, constant beeps at 120 kilometers an hour, well, they are mandatory and they have come to the BMW 3 Series as well. And if you ask BMW, they are forced to say no, they can't get rid of it. So all those hackers who are adding functionalities like Apple CarPlay and Android Auto to some of the older BMWs, well, they have a new business opportunity, getting rid of those beeps, those irritating beeps, the death knell of enthusiasm. Well, I have a cheap fix to it as well. Keep the car beyond 160 kilometers an hour if the conditions allow it, and there'll be enough wind noise from those wing mirrors to start masking that sound. And then there's also enough engine noise filling into the cabin that masks the noise further. That's the only way to get rid of it. I'm not saying that you have to drive at those illegal speeds in public spaces or on the highway to get rid of those beeps. It's better that you be in the speed limit and do not let those beeps happen in the first place. But what do you do on a racetrack? It will get quite irritating, right? And that is where I think BMW should have fixed it. I mean, in today's day and age where you have navigation systems that can even detect an upcoming curve, navigation systems that tell the system or tell the car where the sun is going to rise from or where the sunlight is falling from, and then adjust the air conditioning accordingly. These navigation systems can also tell the car if you are on a racetrack, and all these kind of things should just get disabled. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen. So if you go to any of the 2.5 racetracks that India has, well, being beyond 160 kilometers an hour is my cheap fix to that problem. One common complaint that we've had with a lot of new BMWs is the steering, but here they have absolutely nailed it. Be in comfort or eco modes and the steering is nice and conveniently light, fit for a luxury car. Move to sport mode and it just reminds you of the old age BMWs. It's nicely weighted. It has perfect feedback. In fact, I joined the highway today. There was this little pothole, straight road. The car just went over that pothole and I had this nice little vibration and nice little kickback on the steering, just like the old systems. Not a kickback that will hurt your wrists in any way, but a kickback to tell you exactly what's happening at the wheels. And that's the kind of feedback that I expect. So even with these new age systems, there is that feedback, and it's good news. It really, really helps you. It really puts a smile on your face and draws that enthusiasm out of you. In fact, irrespective of where the marketing, the product planning, or the design direction has headed for BMW in the past, all the 3 Series models have always safeguarded the enthusiastic driving dynamics that are synonymous with this bloodline. The new 3 Series does that too, and quite authoritatively. In today's world of SUVs, it is a pleasant reminder why we love sedans so much. But more importantly, this is also a reminder that for many enthusiasts around the world, the love for the ground-hugging dynamics of a sedan possibly stems from a 3 Series.